This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and these are your headlines. There have been crackdowns on human trafficking, but is it enough? You can now enter Angkor Wat free of charge, and a man dressed as a cow fails miserably at theft. But first to our main story. Since the US issued a scathing report on Cambodia's human rights record, Sihanoukville police have been taking action. And we have more on that in a moment. But we start with this report, and it has some deeply disturbing footage that hopefully will focus your mind on how appallingly these innocent people are being treated. You may not like what you see, but it graphically demonstrates what the life of a slave is really like.
This first boy looks just 16 years of age, and he, like all the others, is kicked and beaten violently. They live in a world of complete and total fear, often handcuffed whilst they are beaten. It is of unspeakable cruelty that these gangs are allowed to get away with this. And this level of depravity continues on and on and on. But let's take a closer look. This is that young lad. He can be no more than 16. And in this still frame, we can clearly see he has been handcuffed. Allow me to slow this clip down. What you see is the young boy being tortured like so many. See these sparks appearing on the screen now? Well, that is electricity. They are being hit by cattle prods. This man is tied to a bedpost. It is quite simply absurd that this kind of treatment is reported again and again and again, and it still continues.
It is this kind of footage that has upset so many, and the police have been taking action. This week there has been a flurry of reports of police clamping down to stop this evil trade in people that is blackening the country's image.
6 men have been sent to court in Sihanoukville for human trafficking, and 35 people have been freed. 4 Chinese men and 2 Cambodians were sent to authorities to face charges. A spokesman for the Ministry of Interior said the suspects were arrested after a complaint to the trafficking hotline. And the raid discovered 35 Chinese nationals that had illegally crossed the border by water from China and had been taken to the Lixing Company building in Sihanoukville. Of the 35 Chinese illegal immigrants, 2 of them were women, all held prisoner on the 4th floor. The 6 suspects arrested were all jailed. One was just 19 years of age. It is a good start for the police, as the new hotline has helped to release some of those held captive. The question now, though, is can the pressure be kept up to free the kingdom of this epidemic of cruelty that destroys so many lives?
I can honestly say I never thought I would read this story, so here goes. Foreigners who live within the kingdom can now apply to gain access to the Angkor Wat Archaeological Park free of charge. And I'm pleased to say the process to apply is amazingly easy.
For well over a decade, foreigners who live within the kingdom have quite literally been pleading to be allowed access to the park. Their point being, they are not tourists, but members of the community. And after all, they do pay taxes, so surely they should be granted the same rights as their Khmer family members and be able to enjoy the park. Well, at long last, this has become a reality. From the 9th of September, you may apply online for the annual pass. Just go to the Angkor Enterprise website, or if you're in Siem Reap, visit the ticket office with your passport and a single photo. It literally takes just 5 minutes and your pass should be ready within the week. It is wonderful news, and all those that have spoken to the Khmer Times are truly grateful that their requests have been heard. And now they can enjoy the park and all its beautiful surroundings.
The cult that announced the annihilation of the world due to a global flood has started to disband from its farm in the Khmer Mountains. But as they do so, one mother tells a sorrowful tale of how her young daughter was caught up in the madness of it all.
A mother told an increasingly common story about her 18-year-old daughter who had dropped out of school 7 months ago and disappeared, and has now been located at the farmhouse of the doomsday cult in Siem Reap province. The girl's mother said that the 18-year-old girl was an outstanding student, but she had disappeared from Phnom Penh 7 months ago. The mother and her family were shocked when they lost their daughter and did everything they could to try and find her. Then one day, she saw her daughter in a video sitting in a field listening to a self-appointed heavenly king. It was Mr. Khmer, and he had gathered 20,000 followers to his compounds at the foothills of the Khmer Mountains, after prophesying that an apocalyptic flood would engulf the planet. The entire planet, that is, except for his farmhouse. After seeing the video, the mother went to Mr. Khmer's farm, but as of yet has not been able to locate her child. And she is not alone, as other mothers are also looking for their children. But in recent reports, it has been noted that well over 5,000 people have left the farm and are returning home, and that number increases daily. So hopefully, it may not be long until they are both reunited.
Deforestation of the country continues, with little sign of it being stopped. Since the year 2000, 27,000 square kilometres of land has been deforested. That is over a quarter of all forested areas. Simply put, another few decades and there will not be a single forest left, and activists are trying to stop the carnage. Activists in Phra Vihear province discovered 246 illegal logging sites in Phra Rocker Wildlife Sanctuary, and that was in a single month. The illegal logging is rampant and goes unchecked, and activists have accused government officials of working with criminals and accepting bribes to loot the forest. Hor Sarath, a 26-year-old activist, said, "I have interviewed people who have been involved in deforestation, and they have told me that the illegal traders pay Ministry of Environment officials from $400 to $500 a month." He added, "The indigenous community feels that ignoring and allowing these forest crimes to continue was not in line with the government's commitment to increase forest cover to 60% by the year 2029. In response to the activists' claims of rampant corruption, the director of Phra Vihear Provincial Department of Environment said, "We only accept reports from organisations and civil societies that have observed and patrolled with environmental officers. So for reports that do not have the cooperation of our team, we reject their conclusions." The indigenous community are somewhat discouraged by this statement and have called on all relevant authorities to stop placing restrictions on their freedom to contribute to the protection of their forests. After all, they are trying to help. So, the logging continues, and a nation's heritage disappears on the back of a truck. Destroyed, so a few men
can line their pockets with money.
There have been two crime stories this week that could not have failed to have caught the attention of many. One was of a thief dressed as a cow, who unsurprisingly was apprehended at lightning speed. The other, a man who was a self-proclaimed sex wizard, which is good work if you can get it.
A master criminal and bovine enthusiast was nabbed by Phnom Penh police this week. Here he is, resplendent in his cow camouflage, which, to be frank, would only have worked if he was nestled in amongst a herd of cows. So let's go to picture 2 to get a wider angle and see if he looks any less conspicuous and less identifiable. Oh well, alas not. We get a much clearer idea as to why dressing like a cow does have the habit of making you stand out in the crowd. The cowman had grabbed a mobile phone and had galloped off into the night, udders swinging merrily in the cool evening air. But his escape was as utterly useless as his ability to remain inconspicuous, as he managed to only go 20 metres and then he ran directly into a passing police patrol, who promptly arrested him. Our second case is of this man, who is in fact a self-proclaimed sex wizard. The 46-year-old farmer was arrested this week after being accused of going into the homes of 3 women and claiming he was a magician who could magically manifest money. He then went on to make advances on all 3 women whilst chanting and waving incense sticks. No small tasks, and shows a level of dedication rarely seen in wizards nowadays. So if by chance you see a cow lolling down the road with a mobile phone or have a horny wizard issue, don't worry, the police will soon have them in front of a nearby judge.
And now it's time to look at our sports news. In tennis news, Nadal has been beaten in a Grand Slam for the first time in 2022, losing to Francis Tiafoe in the US Open 4th round. And we have more losers for you. In soccer, Arsenal lost to Man U, breaking their 100% winning streak.
And there's yet more losers, with Notts Forest going down 3-2 to Bournemouth, that's quite the surprise, and Leicester City conceding 5 to Brighton. So let's have a look at the bottom of the table this week, and the losers of all losers is Leicester City, or if you're American, Leicester City. But of course, you would be wrong. They have lost every single game so far. And the other big surprise is at 15th place. Crystal Palace have only won 1 game. And really, their fans are going to be sorely disappointed.
It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week.
And the forecast is quite simply terrible. It's rain across the board. So let's have one of our interesting little facts. Have you ever thought, how much does rain weigh? Well, an inch of rain per acre equals £250,000 in weight. And every minute of every day, 1 billion tonnes of rain falls upon the earth.
This has been the Khmer Times News. You can contact myself at the studio by mailing us at ktnewsstudio@gmail.com. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next Saturday for your weekly roundup.